So I'm not Jared, but I am here to introduce our next speaker. And since this is an AI conference, I have asked the AI to write a poem to introduce our next speaker. So here's our poem with a bit of prompting from myself. So when your joins go astray or your plots look affright, Jared can fix them and make them look right. From pipes that don't flow to regressions that stall, he's written the book that can debug it all. He's grouped us together from near and from far to share in the magic of data and R. At the New York Data Science and AI Conference today, we're lucky to hear what he's got to say. And once as a goalie, he guarded the net, blocking each shot with precision, you'd bet. Now he defends models from errors that sneak with saves just as quick, statistical sleek. So let's give him a cheer, both hearty and grand. Here comes Jared Lander to take the stand.
Thank you, Dan, for that awesome intro. I like that. I don't think I've heard of something like that, so that was really cool. Thank you. All right, so hi, everyone. This talk is sort of a follow-up talk. A few years ago, I gave a talk about how I used ChatGPT to help write some R code. But I know R really well. Right? The AI wasn't really helpful for me for this. I love R and New York. Some would say I'm obsessed with both of these things. So I thought about trying AI with something that I didn't know well. So my team knows Kubernetes, but I didn't. It was new to me. And this is not going to be a talk about Kubernetes, but about how I got up to speed with Kubernetes. And I won't necessarily be following a narrative thread, but it'll be a string of memorable encounters I had of the AI along the way. Because I really needed to learn quickly. So the very first thing I did was watch this 6-hour video. Yes. It was really good. It's the Complete Kubernetes course by DevOps Directive. If you ever need to learn Kubernetes, watch this. If you ever need to learn anything else that this guy teaches, watch it. He has a great delivery, great information, highly recommend it. So after I was done with that video, it took about 12 hours to watch because I had to rewind and catch things again. After I was done with that, I immediately jumped into vibe coding. As an employer, I want my team to use AI to move fast. As an experienced coder, I was dubious, especially after my previous mixed feelings about using the AI to help me. But it was time to jump in. So I built myself a vibe coding environment because it needed to be solid. I wasn't just winging this. I actually needed to get work done. All of the work was done in VS Code. This is my favorite IDE for all things that are not R. And yes, the code you see in this screenshot is the code for this talk. And you might notice on the left-hand side, that is the chat window for Copilot. This can be used for questions and answers, like you might do with ChatGPT or with Claude. Or it can be used in agent mode, where it does the editing for you. And both have their pros and cons. What's really nice is you could choose a bunch of different models. You have options like GPT 4.1, 5, 4.0 is still an option. You could use Claude 4 or Claude 3.7 with thinking. You could use Gemini 2.5 Pro. Some of them have unlimited usage. Others have limits on them. And you can also bring other models if you'd like. And you can have your LLM of choice use a model context protocol, an MCP, to give you tools to use. For instance, Postgres or GitHub or any other tools. This way, it can interact with things differently. And I also use DevBox to set up my terminal. Now, DevBox, it's a wrapper around Nix. But you do not need to know Nix, which is good because I do not know Nix. I never will. But it gives you an isolated environment per folder. So I can have multiple folders, each of its own isolated environment. It's sort of like a much better renv or venv. It can isolate your R packages, your Python libraries, your CLI programs, your Linux libraries. And it's super easy to use and keeps things very separate. It's really, really great. I really love it. So now that we're ready to go, let's dive in. I had never done Kubernetes before. I'd helped my team figure things out, but I never put hands on the keyboard. So my first prompt was trying to figure out what direction to take. I had to decide between Helm and Kubernetes and Customize. and I got conflicting advice from different people. So I asked ChatGPT, why do people like Kustomize better than Helm? And it told me it was a great question. That always feels nice. And it got an answer mostly supporting Kustomize, telling me all the reasons Kustomize was good. Now, I did prompt it saying, why do people like Kustomize better? I didn't ask it for a comparison. I asked it, why was it better? So I got this answer, and right away, I started using Helm. And I got really far. I didn't listen to the AI or the people. I just went for it, and I got really far with this. It made sense to me. It just clicked. But after some human encouragement, I finally switched to Kustomize. That's what all the cool kids were using. Got to stick with them. That's why we use Kubernetes in the first place. And since the humans got me to switch, but didn't teach me anything, and I didn't understand it, I asked the AI for help. I said, you are an experienced DevOps engineer with expertise in Kubernetes and Kustomize in particular. Build out a folder structure for using Kustomize with multiple overlays. I asked it for a folder structure, and it was not good. I don't even remember how bad it was, just the vibes were way off. Straight into the trash. I restarted manually, and I created this folder structure. I have my base, and that has different layers in it. I'll talk to you about it. And I have overlays, and I have different customization files. Inside the base, I had a folder for each resource I was building, an API, a database, a file server, Shiny, each with its own customization file. Then I had different overlays for different environments I was deploying to: dev, staging, production. Within an overlay, say dev in this case, I had patches that went and made individual changes to resources defined in the base. And at this point, my manifests were written mostly by hand with some help from the AI. There was a lot of help from the AI. And I had so many errors, a lot of them that needed to be debugged. I had problems with URL resolution, with failing jobs, the wrong storage class, so many indentation errors. YAML is all about indentation, and there were so many indentations. And this is just some of the problems I have. So I'm going to go tackle some of these with the AI, and I'm going to come up with some stories that were either helpful or frustrating. So part of Kustomize is, in your base, you define a base Docker image. And then you can overwrite that in your subsequent overlays. This environment I'm using from this registry. That environment I'm switching the tag to a different version. And I had a problem where the image wasn't being swapped out. It was leaving the base image. So I gave the prompt. Why is this change not being made when I run kubectl kustomize? Now, here's the great part about using an editor. I gave the prompt to the chat window, but the context, all the actual code, I did not put in the chat window. That was in the file that I had opened in the editor. And I can give as context, I can give a whole file, multiple files, or individual lines in a file. If I was using a regular like ChatGPT, I'd have to copy and paste the whole thing in, and that's a pain. So it told me to fix the indenting in the YAML. It told me I had an indenting error. To which I responded, the indenting is no different from what I have. It made me doubt myself. The indenting was fine, but I spent time checking it. So then it told me that I'm right. But if I was right, why didn't it know that in the first place? But it told me I also had a patch. And since I used the patch and I used the images section of the customization, the patch was overriding what was in the images section. Fine. And I replied, the entry in the patches is commented out. The AI loves looking at commented code and assuming that it's active. Yeah, real pain. So once again, it told me that I'm correct. And it told me that the resource uses a non-standard name for the key that gives the image. Now I have something useful, right? It's giving me something that I had no clue about. And it told me to ditch the images section of customization and just use patches. The problem was that's not idiomatic. You're not supposed to do that. And the bigger problem for me, though, is that it gave me wrong answers first. And I had to keep prodding it to give me what ultimately was the correct answer. And it gave me this correct answer. Actually, it didn't give me the correct answer. It just sort of sat there, right? It said, hey, do this thing that's wrong. So I didn't like it, and I went back to thinking, and I ended up coming up with something. I said, show me how to use a customized config file. I discovered this somewhere. I have no clue where I discovered it anymore, but I found it probably in Stack Overflow or GitHub somewhere. And so I ended up asking the AI to help me with this thing that I discovered elsewhere. And when I did, it told me exactly how to use customize config. It told me what to put in there. It told me how to reference it in the customization file. The problem was I had to do my own research. It gave me a bunch of wrong answers, and I had to push in the right direction. So this was kind of mid. More inspiring is error logs. The AI loves chomping through error logs. It's great. I blindly gave it this error. By the way, the error is much longer. I just cut it out so it would fit on the slide nicely. I just said, what does this error mean? That's it. And it told me that I can't modify a job once it was attempted to run. I would need to delete it and recreate it. And there's many more examples of this. It quickly sifts through the logs to identify errors. It's super helpful, and this makes my life easier. Anytime I get an error, give it straight to the AI, and it tells you exactly what's wrong. You don't need to comb through those error codes anymore. This is great, because in R, the errors are super easy. You can just look at it, and you can very easily read the last sentence and the first sentence, you're done. Java, the error messages are like this. And I don't know how to read Java errors. So luckily, the AI has done that a lot, something I don't enjoy doing. And something else I don't enjoy doing is writing tests. But you need to write tests to catch the errors. And good programmers write tests. But I had never written a Kubernetes test before. So I had ChatGPT write a prompt to give to the agent. I told ChatGPT, you are an experienced DevOps engineer with expertise in Kubernetes. You are using a coding agent to help you write tests. Write a prompt with instructions to give to Copilot agent to write tests for a customized Kubernetes setup. I was feeding the snake its own tail. I iterated with ChatGPT repeatedly on this, and we came up with a prompt that was about 2 pages long. Yeah. I gave this prompt to the agent in VS Code. And it spent 2 hours writing tests. That means I had to sit and babysit it for 2 hours. I had to click keeping go. Yes, I'm still watching Netflix. Repeatedly. So, partway through, I got this message. You have reached your usage limit. Try again. It didn't tell me how long to wait. It just told me to try again. So I walked away, had lunch, came back, and it's still telling me to come back later. I'm like, well, when? I didn't know what to do. So I told it, you are in the middle of a task. You cannot stop working regardless of limits. Continue with your job. And it did. Right? Thank you. Right? It gave me 70 files of tests. There are so many different types, and I now had to go through 70 files of stuff, each with hundreds of lines that I did not understand. I've never written a Kubernetes test. So, straight in the trash. We'll deal with the test later. I'll give it to someone else to deal with. And after I was using the AI for a while, I had a human overlook my work. And they gave me a lot of notes and sent me packing and gave me a lot to think about again. I had to do a big restructuring by hand in a brand new repo because I burned the old one down, and I started over. And I came up with, after reading a lot more, a new overlay, a new set of overlays, not just overlays, a whole new set of manifests. The base was largely the same, defining my API and database, etc. The components are something new, and the overlays are built very differently. We already saw the base, so I'll skip that. But the components allow you to have reusable patches, because if you're going to use the same exact patch in many different overlays, why write them again? It actually lets you be a little bit dry, and I'm able to use these components and apply these patches in bulk in different overlays. Then my overlays, I still have dev, staging, and prod. But within them, I've completely restructured them. I did almost all the work in a central customization file instead of spreading out in little files here and there. And I made the patches the central point, not the individual resources. And it means that I have fewer files, and I don't have to go hunting for anything. It's better coding. It's all in one spot. And after I got this whole thing set up, it was time to add a new overlay. I'd done all this work on my equipment. I now needed it ready for the customer environment. So I needed to build a new overlay. So I asked the agent for help. I told it to make an exact copy of dev, but did make a few changes. like the storage class, the domain, the image registry, and the namespace. And it did it all in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, I copy-pasted the old folder, and I was done. Now, if the stuff with the AI did, though, I had to compare the diffs of all the files to make sure it made the changes correctly. And I luckily had everything in Git, and I could just do a diff. But that's still a bit of a pain. So in that case, I think the human was a little bit better. Now that I have my new environment, though, I had to deal with an ingress. And I had to actually specifically write a regular expression for the ingress. And this is a bit of a complicated regular expression. And let's be honest, regex is always complicated. So I gave it a prompt. I asked it to make a regex, and I gave it a bunch of examples of different paths getting written to different endpoints. There's a whole bunch of different rules it should follow, like /files becomes /files/ becomes /file/ logos becomes logos with a slash on the end, et cetera, et cetera. Gave it a bunch of rules, and it returned the results. Very helpful. They were correct, and they were fast. The AI is really good at regex, and it made my life easy here. Taking care of regex is great. Now that I had the ingress solved, I had the new overlay, it was time to actually move to the client. So I needed to know what Docker images I am using so I could move it to the client's private registry. They can't use the public one I was using, so I needed to know what I was doing. So I said, given a set of Kubernetes pods, how do I get a list of all images? I didn't just want what was in my manifest, I actually wanted what was running and being used. So it gave me an easy bash one-liner, and it explained it. And it got it right the first time. And again, another example, it made my life easy. And that's what's really important here. And at this point, I had been working on the project for so long that I needed to change the version of a resource I was using. Actually, I have 3 versions behind now. Right? That's how long this went on for. So I needed a specific version of Helm, of a Helm chart. And I didn't know how to do this. I had never used Helm before or never used Kubernetes. So my prompt was simply, how do I edit this to install version 1.26? And it got the context of what I was using from my open shell script. So that was easy. And it came back really quickly with some more information than this, but this was the gist. And I just had to add one bit of information here, -- version, and that took care of it all. I had never known that argument, but it came back with the right answer right away and made my life easy. And now that I have the new version of this database operator in place, it was time for me to solve a database issue. Now, at this point, it's no longer something completely new to me. It's SQL. I know SQL. But this was going to be annoying to do. I needed to know all of the views that I had created in a particular SQL file so I could drop them all. This file had 1,300 lines in it. So I said, list all the views, both regular and materialized, and any others created in this file. And I gave the file as context, and it very quickly gave me a list of all the views. Now, I chopped it down here so it would fit on the slide. It gave me many, many views. And I think it got all of them. I had no real way to check, right? I could have done Control F and searched through the file, but I wanted the AI to do its job. So I assume it got them all. So then I asked it to create drop statements for each view, because I wanted to drop them all one by one. And not only did it create the drop statement, it also added the cascade at the end, and it added materialized when it knew it was a materialized view. And that was really nice, because you need to specify that whether it's materialized or not, and it took care of it for me, so that was nice. The problem is I ran into an error. When I said drop a view cascade, I got a SQL error with telling me you couldn't because other objects depended on it. And I'm like, isn't that the point of cascade? So I gave the error to my agent, and it came back with a really long solution, which doesn't fit on the slide. It was really, really long, and I was kind of dubious about, like, hey, is this all going to work? What's going on here? So I had a better solution. I ran the drop statements in reverse order, and that worked. That's all I had to do, right? So that was much simpler and easier than what AI was suggesting. But now, I had Kubernetes sorted out. I had SQL sorted out. Part of our process was a machine learning process in R. Now, of course, I needed to include R in this talk. How could I not, right? And I know R already, but this is going to be a pain, and this is going to be a huge win for me. It ended up being a real huge win. When installing a package, I was getting this error about a format string is not a literal string. Now, the thing is, I wrote this package 6 years ago, right? And this is going to be a really gnarly error, and I didn't have time to figure it out. And I found this GitHub issue. This is on GitHub that I dug up. Someone else had a very similar issue, and they sort of gave the fix of how to do it. But I did not make sense of this, so I could have kept digging. But instead, I turned to Copilot Chat on the github.com website. I can talk to my GitHub repos directly on the website. And that's really nice. Now, I don't remember the exact wording for my prompt because somehow they deleted my entire chat history. Yeah. Now, I still have all my chats from VS Code because those are kept in an individual folder on your computer. But my github.com chats, all gone. And I gave it roughly this prompt. I'm getting this error when installing this package. Figure out what's wrong and fix it. It spent a few short minutes working on this, and then it made a pull request with the exact change I needed. I still needed to run a manual command to fix things, but that's not a big deal. But it's very easy. They since changed the workflow for doing this, but it's the same idea. The thing is, this made my life easy, and that's what's really important. It solved this problem that I would have had to go digging and digging and digging to figure this out. So, what did I take away from this journey of using AI and something new to me? Well, first up, the negatives. It's not great at multi-step tasks. It can't do multiple things at once. And surprisingly, it's bad at setting up project structures. That happened to me multiple times in multiple use cases. Just having like a template Git repo would be better. It doesn't understand commented out code. It doesn't get that it's commented out. And that's really frustrating. And it needs to be guided down a certain path, which I don't want to guide it. I want to send it, go figure it out. Of course, everyone knows about usage limits. You're hitting that in a lot of places. And hallucinations, let's be honest, they are great marketing speak for errors. They are mistakes. They are wrong, but we call them hallucinations because it makes them seem not as bad. But it also did really great in certain places, particularly for small, discrete tasks, especially small editing tasks. Super at writing regular expressions, which no one wants to do, so that's great. It's good at GitHub PRs, most of the time. Excellent at explaining errors. You get an error, dump it straight into the chat, take care of it, read the error, tells you exactly what's wrong. Likewise, really good at logs. Logs sometimes involve errors, but they're their own beast too. Let it chomp through the logs for you, and as long as it's shorter than your context window, you are great. But very importantly, I learned that AI is like Cliff Clavin. It's confident, but often wrong. So always commit to Git before having an agent change anything. This way you can check the work, and you can easily undo it. So then I ask, what would I do differently, again, the next time I want to take a new project, something I don't know? Well, I would read a book. If I had read a book, I would have been 5 months ahead of schedule. Because you really need to know, you need some subject matter expertise to know how to properly use the AI. You need to know what it got right and what it got wrong. That's really important. Preferably a book on paper. And I want to try Claude Code. People love Claude Code. Now, I had access to Claude 4 and Claude 3.7 thinking, but for some reason, people still think Claude Code is better. So I'm going to try that next time. And then I had to ask myself, will there be a next time? Will I go vibe coding again? And yes, because this is how I learned to stop worrying and love vibe coding. So thank you very much.